You're listening to the Access Success Podcast, produced by Access U, a division of Access Advertising and Public Relations. Hey, let's do something big. I'm your host, Rachel Schneider. Welcome to the Access Success Podcast, where we highlight important topics focused on education in every form it takes. On today's episode, we have a special guest in the studio to talk about the typical day in the life of a social media content creator and influencer. We're welcoming in an artist and viral TikToker who has continued to showcase her brand and her work online as a miniaturist, creating incredibly detailed and realistic mini-scaled scenes and dioramas that challenge the idea of the traditional dollhouse. She has built miniatures for various clients, including Coca-Cola, Disney, and DreamWorks, just to name a few. Her work has been featured in art galleries and museums, including the Museum of Museums in Seattle, Blackbird Gallery in New York, and the Shenandoah Arts Center in Waynesboro, Virginia. In 2020, she was a finalist on the HGTV show Biggest Little Christmas Showdown. Please welcome the face behind Panda Miniatures, Amanda Kelly. Hi, Amanda.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And joining Amanda is Access U social media manager. You met her last episode, Briana Sepulveda, who, fun fact, is also Amanda's fiance. So thanks for coming on again, Bri.
Thank you so much for having me. And any chance I get to brag about Amanda's miniatures, I'm down. So I'm excited.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about how you first got started, Amanda. Where did Panda Miniatures evolve from? Have you always been an artist?
Yeah, so I, going all the way back to being a kid, I've always loved art, and my grandma had a dollhouse, which I played with as a kid. And I kind of, made miniatures for my Pikachu dolls and stuff as I grew up, but it wasn't until college where I bought my first dollhouse kit. I was like, maybe I'll start making miniatures again. After, seeing some videos online of people making miniatures, I was kind of inspired. And, being in art school, I was like, I love, doing things with my hands. So I bought my first dollhouse kit and it kind of spiraled from there. But I went to my first dollhouse show. I noticed that there weren't a lot of modern miniatures. And so I started making my own and documenting that process on Instagram. So I began on Instagram with Panda Miniatures. I just made the name because my name's Amanda and I like pandas. So I was like, okay, Panda Miniatures, that makes sense. So I've had that name from the beginning. And I just started building a following on there. And, it kind of snowballed a little bit and I started getting professional work from it. So it's kind of... it's a strange journey that I took from just being, starting as a hobbyist to now actually doing it full time.
And for people who don't really know, can you hold up the beautiful display that we have here today? Mm-hmm. So tell us what you're working on. What is that?
So this is a hoarder's car. I'm currently in the Masters of Fine Arts program at Radford University. So part of my thesis work is making miniature dioramas and miniatures about hoarding, compulsive hoarding situations. So this is part of that work. I got this car at a thrift store and basically just filled it with a bunch of trash and things that kind of build a narrative. So that's kind of the work that I'm doing right now.
Wow. And so, how much, talk to us a little bit about your process. What types of pre-planning and skills and training does it take to become a miniaturist?
Definitely patience. Because you're working very small, you breathe and something goes flying. I say patience always, and just being an artist, you need patience, but definitely a background in art. It helped me a lot. I went to art school. I was in an illustration program, so I did a lot of drawing and a lot of painting, working with different materials and things like that. So that really helped me kind of apply those skills to making miniature work, which is 3D, so a little different than 2D work, but painting and doing all of the distressing and stuff like that, that's a skill that I kind of carried over from doing realistic paintings. So I would say patience and an art background, definitely, and a passion for it. There's a whole community, so really getting involved with the community of miniaturists and that kind of thing.
Well, and speaking of community, I want to talk about your social media following also. Looking at it now, you have 490.3 thousand followers on TikTok and then 43.9 thousand followers on Instagram. So, like, how did that happen? When did you first start? I know you said you started an Instagram to showcase your work online. When did you start posting to TikTok or seeing like such viral success and watching your work become so popular among the artistic community and other people who enjoy miniatures or are miniaturists themselves?
Yeah, I was lucky to start my Instagram at a time where miniatures were kind of on the resurgence. They had been kind of dormant since like the early 2000s, 90s, and they were really popular in the 80s and the 70s. So in 2015, that kind of around that time was when I got back into miniatures. But when I made my Instagram, I was kind of, at the beginning of that surge on Instagram with miniaturists. So when I started my Instagram, I would follow artists, miniaturists. I would like try and engage with that community, commenting on their stuff, becoming mutual followers with them. And those relationships have lasted until now. I've met some of these people in person at miniature shows. So I think just starting to get engaged with the community on Instagram, built my following there, went to miniature shows, started applying to gallery shows, and then I started getting professional work from Instagram. But then Instagram changed their algorithm a little bit. And I actually started TikTok in 2020 during quarantine, like everybody else. But I didn't really get into it until the following year. I kind of made a couple of videos. I had like one weird viral one in 2020, but I don't know. I just didn't get into it until the following year when I was like, you know what, maybe I should get back into TikTok and really try to be serious about it. So I started posting videos again. But it wasn't until I decided to start working on my Hoarder's Porch piece, which was a project I had kind of abandoned for a couple of years. And then I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just like document my process on TikTok. I usually did kind of like tutorial stuff on Instagram, but Instagram at the time was more photo based. So I wasn't really doing a lot of video. So I was like, let me do like maybe a tutorial and then I'll do like a voiceover, kind of like not ASMR, but maybe just like a soft voice of me trying to narrate what I'm doing. And that second video about the Hoarder's Porch like went instantly viral. At the time, I didn't know that Hoarders had just like released a new season or something.
Oh, wow.
So the hashtag that I used, like instantly, like my video was like, it has like 4 million views or something and crazy like that. But
what was your reaction to that then, seeing that happen?
I was like, oh my God. Because, I don't realize coming from Instagram, posts like that don't go viral like that with the millions, maybe thousands.
Right. It was all like Kim Kardashian. And,
and it's like TikTok is so great because not only do you can reach a broader audience, but also it becomes so personal, like with the Hoarder's Porch, it like had, it was very personal to me and like sharing my story online. Being an artist, you have to be kind of vulnerable, but so many people on TikTok were like, this is my story. Like, I relate to this. Like, it's great to see work about, compulsive hoarding and these situations.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of like a different, I wouldn't say a different vibe on TikTok, but it was definitely more like open to art. Okay. So I feel like a lot of artists have migrated to TikTok because of that. Because of that connection with the audience. Yeah,
and just, we were talking about this the other day with like ASMR stuff, just a lot more like niche interests and hobbies or types of performance or types of art, it seems like have really, really thrived on that app.
Yeah, I think TikTok, because it's so, like your For You page is so tailored to your interests, when these niche TikTokers come on the scene, it's like they succeed more than maybe like a general TikTok would. Because they have this niche audience, this specific, type of person who wants to watch their videos.
Yeah. Well, Brie, is there anything you wanted to add from that, just from our discussion last week, a little bit talking about some of the differences between Instagram and TikTok, and like, what was your reaction to seeing some of the success of Amanda's videos?
Sure. I think my initial reaction was just like in awe of how many people were watching, but also sharing their personal stories and connecting with Amanda's work. But Amanda did touch on a good point. TikTok definitely started out and still is ideal for niche subject matter, niche markets. And so the more unique your work is, or your content on TikTok, the more specific of an audience you can attract there. The difference, I would say, between TikTok and Instagram or Facebook's algorithms is that studies have shown that negative comments on both Facebook and Instagram tend to get a lot more traction.
Yeah.
Whereas TikTok, its whole culture is uplifting and positive comments as a fresh break from what you might see on Facebook and Instagram. So anyone who has given Amanda a negative comment, which is rare, but it does happen. I mean,
Sure, yeah.
On her TikTok account, we started to see Amanda's followers commenting and defending her work as well, and explaining, that whether it's about hoarding or just like something as silly as what kind of glue you're using. I remember there was a whole debate within the miniature community about like the do's and don'ts of wood glue, and everyone had very strong opinions about hot glue.
Hot topics.
Yeah.
Hot glue, hot topics.
Hot glue, hot topics.
Oh my
like
gosh.
that.
Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, like, I feel like I don't even have to respond to these negative comments because my audience does it for me usually. And I don't get a lot. It's usually people who maybe aren't my audience, because TikTok, again, another difference between TikTok and Instagram is that on Instagram, it's usually people who follow you seeing your posts, right? Like, well, aside from the reels, but that's a whole different story. But on TikTok, it's your audience and your followers and random people, because TikTok will push it out to, random people's For You pages. So you'll get people who don't even know what miniatures are on my video, and they're like, what is this? Like, I've gotten weird comments like, why do you charge so much for this? Or like, what is the point of a miniature? So I do get a couple of those comments, but again, like, usually my followers take care of it, and I don't have to do any crisis management or anything like that.
Hey, that's nice when you got like your fandom behind you. I mean, can we talk about like what it's been like for you then to now have like such a follower count that you've seen like a community thrive, like watching your work and now like having fans? I mean, how has that like been for you?
It's a little strange. I'm usually an introvert, so I used to be very private about myself and my work, but now it's kind of like I have to put myself out there. And I will say that I will post a video and someone will comment like, hey, have you worked on that project from like 6 months ago? And I'm like, oh, so they kind of hold me accountable as an artist too. And it's like, I can't believe you remember like that piece that I was working on back then. So it's a little weird sometimes, but I love my fans, I guess. I don't know. I love my followers because they're so encouraging. Like, anytime I post something, that's like very vulnerable, they're like, oh, I get that. Like, or other miniaturists, that I mutually follow that like comment on my work, like supporting, this looks amazing, like congratulations on the show or whatever. It's just great. It's a great kind of feeling, like people like actually caring about your work and stuff. But yeah, there's a little bit too on that same note of like burnout, so like being a creator every day, like trying to make content and thinking about content constantly, you do get a little tiny burnt out. But it's I take a break from social media and I work on some stuff and then I come back to it. So there is that part of it too that I think a lot of people don't really think about.
Yeah, well, and we're going to come back to what a typical day in the life really looks like, but just to gather like more about your story and how you started getting like more business from social media. You've obviously had some big name clients, and like, when did you start seeing folks from like Disney and MTV reaching out to you for commission pieces? Did they reach out through social media? Was it because they saw like a video or a photo of a recent project you posted?
Yeah, so before TikTok, I was solely on Instagram, and my first client ever, my first huge commission ever, was Swarovski crystals. So it's pretty much been from the beginning where I've been working with large clients. Before that, I was just doing kind of like personal commissions, tiny miniatures for people. But Swarovski crystals was my first one, and it was actually through a event planning company. And this woman that I went to college with, actually, she reached out to me and she's like, hey, we have this client who wants to do some miniatures for their upcoming event. So, what is your rate and everything? And I was like, oh my God, like this is amazing.
Wow.
And it turned out it was Swarovski crystals. They wanted 4 miniature dioramas of Oscar stages for their flagship store in Times Square. It was like, I couldn't even believe it. I was like, what? And I had a week and a half to do it. It was very stressful for my first commission.
Just to add another visual to it, at the time, Amanda and I were both living in a 3-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn with roommates. So this was all being created on a tiny desk in our bedroom.
Like in the corner.
Yep.
Like I didn't even have my own studio. Now I have my own studio and it's like great. But back then it was a corner in our room.
With like a huge client.
Yes. It was stressful, but it was a great experience. I learned a lot. I learned what I could charge for something like this.
Right.
I learned how to negotiate a contract, which is something that, over the years I've had to kind of, learn new things with different clients. Swarovski was the first one. And then my largest one after that was Coca-Cola, which I also only had a few weeks. It's very common to just have a few weeks, very tight deadlines. And that was a great project. A lot of the clients I work for, I go through like a third party. So it's usually like an ad agency or an event planning agency. I usually never work directly with the client, if that makes sense. But when I work with TV or film productions, it's usually directly with the production company. And I've done a few of those where I've worked on sets, making miniatures or, being involved on the set of a TV show or something like that. And then my most recent client, which I was like, last fall, I made a content video for Disney. So like sometimes clients will want me to make an actual miniature, usually for production, it's for like a TV show or something. But if it's an agency or like a client like that, they usually want like something for a campaign. So I usually either make the miniature and they film it, or now I've been getting a lot of requests since being on TikTok. Pretty much in the last 2 years, all of my clients have been from TikTok, where they want like actual videos that I produce. So they want it to be organic, just make the miniature, but do a tutorial and do the voiceover, just like all your other videos, so it kind of blends seamlessly. And that was, Disney wanted me to do that for their Home Alone movie last year, which they were a great client. I love working with Disney. And I was like, I can't top Disney. And then this past summer, Xbox reached out to me and I was like, what? And it was the same thing. They wanted a TikTok video. So I had to make a miniature of this video game that was being released. And I made a video about it, posted on my TikTok. So they paid me for the miniature. They paid me for the video. So it's kind of strange being a content creator because it's part being an artist, and then also being an influencer. So there's like 2 parts to that. But yeah, working with large clients, it can be a little daunting, I think, for new creators, but totally worth it. I loved every minute.
Yeah. Well, so now, social media is definitely part of your profession then. I know you said you take a break, but like, what does a day in the life look like then when it comes to creating content? Do you wake up and you're like, what TikTok am I going to make today? Or like, how does that work when you were talking before about coming up with content ideas when maybe you don't like have like a commission piece or a client you're currently working with?
Yeah, it's usually because I'm on TikTok just anyway every day. But I usually save sounds that I'm like, okay, this, like the trending sounds on TikTok.
Sure.
Usually they're like meme sounds, or there's just like the trending songs of the time, or people do remixes of songs that are trending. So I usually save a bunch of sounds. And then when I know that I'm going to be in my studio all day, I'm like, okay, I'm going to like carve out a time in the morning where I can just list couple video ideas, and then I list them in my sketchbook, and then I go through my sound list. I'm like, would that relate to I save a lot of sounds that maybe wouldn't relate to miniatures. And I try to, that's one thing that I did on Instagram too, is always trying to be consistent with what I'm posting about. I don't post a lot of personal stuff. This is my professional TikTok, my professional Instagram. So I don't really post about personal things. I try to relate it back to miniatures. So when I'm going through the sounds, I'm like, okay, I can like make that about dollhouses or something. So I usually try and plan it out, and then I record it. Maybe record 2 to 3 at a time if it's a good day, because then I can save them and post them throughout the week. And yeah, I usually try to plan them out. Usually it's on the TikTok app. But if it's for a client, I usually use Adobe Premiere to edit all the videos and the voiceover and everything. But when it's kind of like off the cuff, I just do it through TikTok because their editing software is pretty good. And usually if it's like a trending sound or something, you have to use the TikTok editing and recording functions. So yeah, there's a little bit of planning involved. Definitely takes a couple hours out of my day.
Yeah, there's definitely strategy there. And I don't think a lot of people realize that fully when it comes to like, oh, I'm a social media content creator. And it's like, no, this is a job. Like you have to make sure you're looking for those trending sounds, trending music, and planning out what you're going to do and how it relates to your brand. And Bri, I know you spoke of this last week of just whenever we boost content or creating like social media marketing plans, making sure that that's like true to your brand.
Right, for sure. And I think where some companies might be having some challenges with like brand TikToks is the approval process of getting drafted posts approved in a timely manner where it still is relevant and still hits the algorithm. And one of the benefits Amanda has with her own TikTok is that you're essentially your own boss. So if you see a trending sound or filter, like she's quick to record something, share it that day, and it'll get that traction that's needed. Whereas if there's a prolonged approval process, then what is trending this week might not be as viral next week. So it's helpful to also keep that in mind if you're considering starting a TikTok account for your brand too, and who's going to be responsible for that, but also who's going to be looking out for those opportunities to film something, relate it back to what's trending, and then get it approved and published so it hits the algorithm.
Yeah, definitely. Amanda, I know you mentioned how you're getting most of your business from TikTok now and from your social media accounts. When did this become like a full-time job? Because I know you're still going to school on top of that too. So like, how has it been managing the two?
It's a lot to manage a schedule. It kind of helps that, like, doing my MFA, I'm already doing miniature work, so I do take a few months off from taking commissions while I'm preparing for my thesis. But, I'm at the point where I get, maybe 2 to 3 commission requests in my inbox a month, maybe even more depending on the season. Holidays are usually more agencies are looking for miniature work. But I'm at the point where I'm comfortable with saying no to projects. And when I was starting out, I had to say yes to everything because I had no experience, right? Like I have to get that experience and those commissions. And now it's like, okay, well, this one will not work for my schedule. I always ask for a deadline. I always ask, what their budget is. If the budgets don't align, not every commission that comes through my email is one that will actually happen. And I'm okay with that. As long as they keep coming, that's okay. But it's hard to manage it sometimes. I feel like there's a really cool project I want to do, but I just don't have time for it. That's a good problem to have, I guess. But, it's hard sometimes to kind of balance that. But I'm hoping... having it as my full-time job, I also teach at Radford, so I'm doing like 3 jobs. But I love that. I love being busy. I think that's when I work the best, is when I have like deadlines and things. But I think after I graduate with my thesis work and I'm starting to get more into the gallery world and the museum world, I will still take commissions from agencies and TV shows and film. because it's just interesting work. It's different every time. Every client is different. And what they want is always very interesting. Their proposals and things. I'm like, this is a cool project, because I use techniques that I've never, like for Xbox, for example, I used a lot of techniques that I, had never used before. I did a lot of 3D printing, which I love 3D printing. So that was really comfortable for me, but they trusted me enough to, make a miniature work. And that feels good as an artist to have that trust, like from the client, that they're just like, let you do whatever you want. And that's also another thing with, social media. It's kind of like you do have to jump on the trends and kind of have trust in the influencer to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So for, I guess, on the client side, when you're looking for an influencer or someone to promote your product, just kind of keep that in mind, to keep the flexibility in mind, like have an idea of what you want, but, let the influencer kind of take it and run with it.
Yeah. Let them do their thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So going off of that, what advice would you share for other creators and emerging artists on the social media scape to make their content engaging and gain a following? I know it's kind of like, you talk to people and all of a sudden their video went viral and it's like, well, but how do you keep that engagement going?
Yeah, it's difficult to start a TikTok because you post one thing and it gets, 2 likes and you're like, what is going on? But really just keep at it. You can always delete bad performing videos later, but I would say be consistent, have a niche that you're going to do, and have a list of hashtags that you always use. I always use like miniatures, dollhouse miniatures. I'm doing a lot of stuff about hoarding, so I use hoarders. Keep your hashtags consistent. One thing TikTok loves, the algorithm loves consistency. I noticed, when I post a tutorial video and I, tag it miniatures, dollhouse miniatures, and then like and that does great. And then I'll follow it up with like some random like meme sound that wasn't as popular as I thought. And it does worse. And I'm like, why? It's because TikTok loves you posting the same thing, not exactly the same thing, but very consistent, like niche things that relate to your TikTok. So I recommend just keep posting, keep like trying to find people to follow that are similar to you. I follow artists, I follow miniaturists. I also follow like random comedians on TikTok just because for my own personal. But I have those connections. Like a lot of like kind of large TikToks follow me back because I also have a large following. So we kind of people with similar followings following each other, and we do like collabs and stuff. So it's like, engage with the community and find your community. And that way you get a lot of engagement from their followers too, because they'll follow you back. So yeah, that's pretty much my advice. Be consistent, have a niche, get on those trending sounds like right away. I mean, there are sounds that only are around for a couple days and then they're gone. And then you hear them on Instagram like 3 months later. So definitely get on the trending sounds, the trending. There's also trending just video types and edits and things. Like CapCut is a really popular app right now that it's kind of like Adobe Premiere on your phone. But get on those kind of trends of different apps that people are using to edit videos too.
Bree, would you say a lot of the same advice would apply to not just artists and creators, but businesses and people looking to curate their content or grow their following?
Absolutely. And one feature, too, that TikTok has that's really helpful is in the comments, you can actually respond to any kind of inquiries or questions with a video. And I think that's really helpful, too, because you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, essentially. You're creating content and responding to your audience. So that's a good way to answer any questions. If someone has a question about how a product works, it might be an opportunity to respond with a video with a demo or some kind of tutorial. And those videos will also hit the algorithm, and you'll start to see them in your FYP with the little white comment box on them. That's how you know it's a response to a comment. So yeah, absolutely. I agree.
And my last question for you both then, too, is since this is the Access Success Podcast, Amanda, could you share a success story that has stuck with you recently or a recent project that you're proud of?
Yeah, I have been getting into a lot of gallery shows lately. Success about me? Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't know. Yeah, I've been getting into a lot of gallery shows recently. I recently had my Hoarder's Porch piece in a gallery show in Spartansburg, South Carolina at the Artist Collective, and it won a merit prize.
Congratulations.
So that was really great. Yeah, my work has been getting recognized a lot lately. I just got into a show in Milwaukee, which is a 30 by 30 show. So I have to make 30 little miniatures. And it's going to be like in a grid style. So that's really cool. That's a lot of work that I'm going to have to produce in January. And I got into a show at the Oling Gallery at Roanoke College. So the Hoarder's Porch will be on display there in the new year. And I'm also in the Pulaski New River Valley Gallery. I have a piece in that show too. So I got into a couple shows this past couple weeks, which is very exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. And congratulations on getting into those shows. I mean, gallery work sounds like it's different than like the commissioned pieces that you do. Mm-hmm. But then how is that a different experience seeing people getting to view your piece in person versus just seeing it like online through social media?
I think it's definitely a different experience for people because they can see it in person, see how tiny it is. You know, when you see a video, it's hard. I try and put my hand, in photos and videos so people know the scale. But when you see it in person, it's like a different experience. You're just like, whoa, it's so tiny. And I've made some TikToks about gallery shows that I've been in, and people are like, oh, I'm in the area. I'm going to come on down and like see it. And that's really cool when people are able, who've been fans of mine on TikTok for, a year or so, and then they're able to see it in person, like if it's in their area. That's a really cool experience. I've also had some students who are like, I follow you on TikTok. And I'm like, oh, no, it's okay, which is very strange. But it is a different experience. This 30 by 30 show, all the work is going to be sold. So, it's a different way for an artist to make money other than just commission work.
Yeah. Well, and then just getting to watch people have that experience, seeing your art in person. I think that's probably that sounds so fulfilling and just full circle. And
It is. It's really great. People's comments, they're just always blown away. And I'm like, what, with my work? Oh my gosh. I feel very blessed and I'm just happy that people understand my work and appreciate it.
Yeah. And Bree, do you have any wins that you want to share? Any recent successes that we can highlight?
Sure. Well, successes. Let's see. I may have a success in the making, actually. I just downloaded Be Real, which is...
We're going to be real.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be so real on this app. And it is a relatively new social media platform where it sends you these alerts and you have to drop everything and take a selfie. And it's really focused on the authenticity of being in the moment and don't use filters or any kind of edited video content. Just shoot it right there in the moment.
Yeah.
So.
I downloaded it a couple months ago and started using it. But not consistently at all. I get alerts now, and it used to be when I got an alert, I would immediately drop everything and post a photo. Mm-hmm. And now I've just stopped doing it. I've just stopped responding to it because I'm relaxing or I'm busy. But it's super intuitive in the way that it will tell your followers how many attempts you took to take the photo and how many times you did it.
Wow.
So, I didn't know that at first, and it probably said, 30 or something crazy.
Cool.
That would be me. I take so many retakes of things. But I'm interested to see how that would work for my content. And, if I was in the studio and I got a notification, maybe that could be something that I could do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm interested. Sure. Maybe I'll download it today.
Total progress tracker, just in the moment, every day.
That would hold me accountable for sure.
And when we both get the alert, I'll take a selfie from this angle, you take a selfie from that angle, and it'll be like selfie inception. It'll be awesome.
Gosh. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Amanda, just thanks again for coming in today. I've learned so much talking with you and getting to learn about your craft and being a miniaturist, but also just how you've been able to establish and maintain your following and just the creativity that comes from all these ideas. So for people interested in following your work, where can they find you?
Sure. So I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook under Panda Miniatures. And then I also have a website, pandaminiatures.com. So check me out.
So go to the website, check it out. For everybody watching and listening today, thank you for watching and listening to the Access Success Podcast. And we will see you next week. Thanks for listening to the Access Success Podcast, produced by Access U, a division of Access Advertising and Public Relations. Find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to keep up with what the world of education needs to hear, at Access U Agency, and connect with us at accessu.com. Let's do something big.